Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Something Some Places at Certain Times. I'm doing this episode alone again, but I will be back with Sean soon. And this episode, I'm going to talk about See How They Run, which is a new whodunit comedy murder mystery film, which takes place in 50s London, starring Saoirse Ronan and Sam Rockwell. And there are several other actors that you might be familiar with. Adrian Brody and Ruth Wilson, who I've seen in other things before. But the main characters are Saoirse Ronan and Sam Rockwell. They play the cops who are investigating the murder that this movie takes place around. Now, to get into it, spoiler free as always, this was really good. It was really funny. The acting was all very good. I didn't know Sam Rockwell could do British accents, whether you think it was particularly good or not. I think I might have heard better British accents, but he has, as far as I've seen, he's only done American accents in movies, so this was like the first time I heard him do a British accent, so it almost felt out of place. So, yeah, I mean, his acting was great. His accent, I'll leave that up to you to decide. It didn't take me out of it. I just thought it was a bit weird to hear him doing it, because I never have before. And Saoirse Ronan uses her native Irish accent, which I think is great. Irish actors don't often get the chance to use their native accent, which I thought fit the film really well. Her character, her lines were very good, very funny. Screenplay by Mark Chappell, so I imagine he wrote most of the lines. I don't know if she added anything in herself, but the dialogue in this movie, the lines were just fantastic. So funny. And so, a lot of quick wit and everything. I just thought it was great. And, there's not much action there, so there's a couple, one or two chase scenes and maybe dramatic moments where obviously there's a murder in it, so you get a bit of action, but it's not really about the action. It's more about the dialogue and the mystery. Now, the mystery itself is good, and it's not like I didn't know who it was super early or anything. It was something that I was trying to figure out along with the detectives in the movie. So I thought it was done very well, and they did a good job of showing many different people's points of view. They showed them investigating and interrogating many different characters, and a lot of the investigations were very funny, and all the actors were great. They all did a good job, and yeah, this wasn't as dramatic, like I said, as maybe Death of the Nile, which came out recently. And it is more lighthearted, funnier, but there is still some real-world consequences. Now, Agatha Christie is a character in this because the murder mystery revolves around a play that she wrote, or is based on a book that she wrote within the story of the movie. I don't know if it's an actual story she did. I haven't looked it up. Well, let me look it up now. So it says it's based on The Mousetrap, and it is real, so there we go. So it is based on a real Agatha Christie story, and a real play that has been done in London on the West End. But of course the murder mystery, or at least I hope, is not quite a true story. But It is a very good story, and it is funny. And yeah, I like the movie, and the reveal at the end I thought was great. It plays on a lot of the tropes of murder mysteries and whodunit movies, and it even mentions them directly. The writer of a would-be movie adaptation of The Mousetrap in this movie is kind of trying to keep the formula of whodunits, whereas the director of the would-be movie adaptation is trying to change things up. He's like, he doesn't like the story. It opens with him kind of complaining about whodunit movies and whodunit stories, which is ironic because it is almost exactly how this movie plays out, yet he's complaining about it. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, I would give this movie a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. And yeah, so for right now, I'll say a 7 out of 10. It's not the most mind-blowing, incredible mystery. I didn't feel like my life changed when the reveal comes out at the end, but getting there, I didn't know who it was leading up to it, and it is very funny, and it is great entertainment, and I really liked it. And the acting, especially the main two, I thought was fantastic. And yeah, so I give it a 7 out of 10. If you get the chance to see it, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely worth going to see. I think you can really enjoy it. So now I'm going to get into some spoilers. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet, you've been warned. Now, like I said, with the director of the movie, within the movie, the director of the would-be film adaptation, played by Adrian Brody, the character Leo Kopernik. He is, of course, our victim, and yeah, I thought it was cool how he narrated the beginning, and he was basically saying he didn't like all the whodunit stuff. And when you see him in flashbacks, like with the writer, Mervyn, played by David Oyelowo, you see him complaining about other things. He's always trying to make them, add in more action, make things bigger, make things like this. And when he said, like, imagine the finale, there's gonna be a house fire, and our hero is gonna get shot in the stomach and in the knee, and then he shoots the bad guy in the stomach and the knee, but then the good guy is about to get shot, but then his trusty assistant comes and saves him, but then takes the bullet instead. I just knew that was foreshadowing. That was how the end of this movie was gonna play out, and I spent the whole movie wondering and fearing that Saoirse Ronan's character, Constable Stalker, was going to die at the end, saving the inspector in, an act of heroism, taking a bullet for him. And I'm glad that it didn't come to be that way. It played out almost exactly the same. The shootout happened pretty much that way, and she jumps in and she saves him, and I thought it was a great reveal. She was like, oh, no, I don't feel any pain because I didn't get shot. I think you did. He's like, oh yeah, look at that. So I thought that was really good. I really liked it. So it was enough foreshadowing that was kind of obvious, giving you the expected ending without revealing who the murderer was. Just showing you what would happen to the heroes, but then still changing it just enough that you didn't know what actually happened to the heroes. So it was still a surprise at the end. Now, in terms of the murder mystery, let's maybe look through them trying to solve it. When Sam Rockwell thinks he has a suspect, and he's chasing them. Who was he chasing? He was chasing the writer, or he was chasing the Gio, the guy's, the writer's Italian lover. Yeah, I think that was it. And whoever he was chasing, they're at the play, right? Watching the play, and then they all start running through the theater. And so they've got Gio, they've got the writer, they've got the inspector and the constable all running around. And I knew once Constable had suspected the inspector of being the murderer because of the picture of his wife and the description that she got, which was, admittedly a very poor description. A plain girl with basic features or something. Like, come on, you could maybe narrow it down a bit more. But, yeah, of course she suspected him, and once the inspector saw the other people getting up, then he got up, and then she saw him getting up, and they're all chasing one after another. I knew that scene was going to play out with the inspector chasing the actual murder and seeing something actually go down, and then the constable being one step behind, seeing the inspector over a dead body, which he found, not committed, and then seeing the inspector run away, chasing after the murderer, but she was thinking he was the murderer running away from her. So, I thought it played out great. The way they presented it was great. And it all worked out in the end. And then when he's in the jail and wakes up, and they're like, oh, because the director was with this woman who's your ex-wife, and that's why you killed him, because she had a child with him, and blah, blah, blah. And then the woman comes in, and he's like, yeah, that's not her. And she's like, oh, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty common name. It could have been anyone. So I just thought that was such a, relaxed, almost preposterous, not preposterous, but a silly reveal. And I think it just fit the tone of the film really well. And I thought it was good. It was funny. And, you believed it could have been it. And then he just gets up and says, well, that's a great theory, but that's not her. So that's, it doesn't make any sense. So I thought that was good. I really liked it. And then finding the real reveal at the end, where the two of them independently find out who the actual murderer is through different means of investigation, and then they diverge upon the scene. And it goes back to the director and the writer talking about how these movies typically end, whether they like it or dislike it. And he's like, you bring them all into the drawing room, and then you sit them down and you reveal who did it. He's like, I'm going to change it. I'm not going to have the detective say who reveals it. He's going to come bursting in, blah, blah, blah. And then that's what actually happens, which I thought it was great. And it was cool because, like I said, it plays on all those tropes, the stereotypical events in a whodunit film, especially whodunits from back in the day when this takes place. And it uses a lot of them, and it changes a lot of them, and it just kind of plays things off in a really fun, entertaining way. And then, of course, you find out that the murderer is the usher from the theater, and he's doing this because he wants the play to go away because it's based on his life. And yeah, I didn't really suspect him up until that point, so I wasn't really thinking about him. And it was a good reveal, and it's a story that makes sense. And of course, they reveal some more details that make even more sense than you had maybe pictured, because he kind of came out of left field, so to speak, to be the murderer. And I thought the way that they had Agatha Christie in the movie was really interesting. She comes in and she sees what's going on, and she comes in and acts like nothing's wrong, and she poisons the tea to try to poison the murderer. But then other people are trying to other people are trying to pass out the tea, and they mess her up, and the teas get mixed up, and she's like, oh, I think this was yours. And eventually he drinks the tea, but then her butler in the background of the shot falls over, clearly having drunk the wrong tea, which I just think is brilliant, because you spend those couple minutes wondering, is he gonna drink it? Did she get the right one? Is he gonna pass out or die or whatever? And then it's not the murderer, it's someone else. And it just kind of gives them a chance to lead to the shootout that the director, Adrian Brody's character, was alluding to in his plans for the would-be movie adaptation. Yeah, and that's about it. Like I said, a lot of Saoirse Ronan's lines especially I thought were fantastic. The way the inspector and the constable and the commissioner would all address each other. Commissioner, inspector, constable, inspector, commissioner, inspector. Like, back and forth. I just thought that was that was great, the couple of times they did it in the movie. And all the witty lines and everything. Very funny, very entertaining. A movie you can easily enjoy. And so yeah, I give it 7 out of 10. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this. This episode will be on YouTube and Spotify, so please like and share and subscribe. And thank you for listening.